Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great episode for you guys. What we are going to do is focus on a lot of the books that we didn't get to read for last week, which was pretty much all of them. So, 10 books to review as per usual. 9 of which are going to be from the pulls from the previous week, and then just one book that is our backlog. So, let's just go ahead and jump into it, shall we, and talk the reviews for this week. So, for the reviews, we have the books in this order. I'll go ahead and just talk through them for the audio folks so you can skip around as you like. Video folks, of course, you can see everything. Here we have Batman and Deadpool. This is going to be the crossover, the DC version of the book. Then we have Exquisite Corpses, issue number 7. The Ultimates, issue number 18. One World Under Doom, issue number 9. New Gods, issue number 12. Absolute Flash, number 9. Final Boss, this is a new one, number 1. The Red Book, number 2. G.I. Joe, issue number 14. And Batman and Robin, issue number 14 as well. That Batman and Robin is going to be the backlog book. So everything else is just really me trying to catch up. Of course, we have Thanksgiving coming up. Nice thing is the company was like, hey, you can work remote on Wednesday. So I should be able to pick up my books Wednesday and read everything for Saturday's issue that's coming up, which will be pretty sweet. So yeah, let's start off with Batman and Deadpool, the DC issue here. I gave the book a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1, so pretty similar here. Before I go into the reviews, I should just forewarn everyone. So the way I review these is I will spoil the heck out of the books in case you're brand new. For folks that have been listening for a while, you already know that. But I'll go ahead, talk about the books, my review on League's review as well, and then whether or not this is a good time to jump into the book, and then for the video folks, I'll show off some of the artwork as well. So, with Batman and Deadpool, was excited, of course, to jump into this, was curious how DC's take was going to be, and, you know, it was similar as far as the Marvel one, but different as far as tone. So, similar in the sense that, you know, we're doing things that are very akin to what these characters would do, but, you know, different in kind of the writing style and the approach. The manager at the comic book shop was like, I love how Morrison, who wrote this, he's mostly doing Marvel stuff, so they had him do the DC one, and you can tell in here it's like maybe he was throwing some jabs at DC, and so we'll talk about the main story here. It's Batman, it's Deadpool. Batman is hurt and injured, and Deadpool's trying to save him from a different universe. And he puts him into the Lazarus pool and find out that the villain is Cassandra Nova. She's trying to get her hands on this typewriter that basically controls the narrative of the universe. And so by having control of the narrative, she can have ultimate power, right? So breaking the fourth wall a whole bunch. And the reason that you can tell Morrison is like maybe trying to say something grander here is talking a lot about, you know, narrative control, and, you know, maybe him as the creator wanted to go one direction, but the typewriter in this instance of the story is going a different direction. So I guess they had some creative differences, and I'm amazed that they kind of let this slide through, but it is Deadpool who breaks the fourth wall all the time. So I guess they let that slide. But basically they're able to stop Cassandra to getting to the typewriter, and by doing so, they have now sealed off the fourth wall, and basically it's a good way to say, like, okay, now both of these universes, DC and Marvel, go back to kind of your respective places, and all is saved, Batman is saved, and they're all kind of good to go there. So, you know, fun kind of fourth wall breaking book, but overall, you know, I think just fine and serviceable. I actually prefer Marvel's version in my personal opinion. Maybe it was like, okay, it's already done once, and this was cool, like this is the first time I've seen this ever happen, and then now it feels like maybe a little bit of a repeat. So there are multiple books in here, so that's the very first one. Actually, let me go ahead and flip to the other stories that they had in there. Anytime it's multiple stories, I just can't keep it all straight in my head. So the next story was about Constantine on the DC side, of course, and then Doctor Strange. So Constantine meets up with Doctor Strange at the Sanctorum or the Sanctum, and when they meet up there, Constantine is like, "Oh yeah, we should kind of like join up together." But it turns out Constantine was actually trying to steal Doctor Strange's powers, and they kind of like meld together. And when they do, they're like, "Oh, this is weird and bizarre, and like we shouldn't do this." And they basically agree to kind of go their separate ways. So kind of a nothing story that took place there. Then you had Nightwing and Nyx. They team up together, and both of them are just trying to live up to their father figures. Nyx, of course, to Wolverine. Nightwing, of course, to Batman. So that was a nice little bonding moment between those two. And then you have Harley Quinn and Hulk. Hulk shows up at this amusement park that's like this like death-defying amusement park with like a whole bunch of like toxic sludge and stuff. So Hulk's trying to stop a villain. Harley sees the Hulk and like almost like madly falls in love with him. And she goes chasing after him, and when she does, she helps him to like try to prevent from further catastrophe. So it's a very quick little short story that you have there. And then you can see like Hulk is like all like fine, you helped me out, but I really have zero interest in you. So kind of a funny one. Then we have the last one, which is Miss Marvel and Static Shock. They team up together and they fight off a beast and basically realize that they both are cut from the similar cloth, but obviously different universes. So yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell. It's just the one shot, and this is just the DC side. Of course, it's a good one to jump into. It's a nice piece of kind of comic history to have this book and then also have the Marvel one. Who knows when the next time this is going to happen. So pretty big deal from that perspective. But from the actual stories themselves, they're fine. So let's go ahead and show off some of the artwork here. So here is the art from the first story, which I think was probably the best that you had. So this is when Batman's shot with all these arrows. Cassandra Nova is revealed as the villain and going after the typewriter. This is coming out of the Lazarus pool. Looks like Batman is almost like kind of a Wolverine version. And they're both like fighting over the typewriter. They're able to get their hands on it, and they're kind of good to go from there. So yeah, that's the first story. Then you got the Doctor Strange and the Constantine as their worlds are kind of melding together. But this is a really cool splash that you have from both of these. And they're like joining together, but then they realize like, oh, this isn't right. We shouldn't be doing this. And so they go their separate ways. Nightwing and Nyx. Theirs was probably the most standard of the kind of the comics. The art wasn't anything too crazy. Harley and Hulk feels almost like a newspaper strip between those two together. Very short. And then Static and Miss Marvel, kind of fine as well. You know, two kids in a very similar boat trying to be superheroes at the same time. Also a very short one. So yeah, that is Batman Deadpool, issue number 1, but really just the one and only issue. The DC side of things, I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.1. So the next up we have Exquisite Corpses, issue number 7. So I just read this one today before send this all up. I'm actually doing 2 podcasts today. I did the wrestling right before, and now I'm doing the comic one. I can't remember the last time I did 2 podcasts in a row, but I felt like, I have the energy. Let's go ahead and just knock these out and get them out to the people. So anyways, Exquisite Corpses, issue number 7. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.3. I was in between a 4 and a 4.5, but for whatever reason for me, it just didn't quite feel like a 4.5, so I just went with the standard 4. To catch you up on the story, we have a battle royale that's going out of sorts, and it's basically the founding families of the 13 original colonies. They get together once every 4 years. They pick a champion. They pick some random town in the country, and they have basically a battle royale. If you're familiar with video games, similar concept. Those 13 champions, they all fight off against one another, and whoever is the last one standing, that family then technically runs the country for the next 4 years. So forget whatever the president is, that's the family that actually is like, the Illuminati, if you will. And so each one of these families take this tournament to a different degree of seriousness. Some actually really care, and they're trying to get like a high trained assassin, and like they actually want to win. Other families are like, we don't care, we're billionaires anyways, what does it matter? So they just pick like a random psychopath, they'll put some money on it, they'll get hammered, and watch this whole thing unfold. We've had multiple die throughout. This is taking place on Halloween night in this small town, And we've gotten to the point where they're like closing the circle, like truly the video game of the battle royale. They're burning the different edges and like they're trying to force more fighting and people inward. And so as that's happening, we've had, multiple deaths and people are starting to realize what's happening. So now we're in issue 7. We're at the pit, which has been referenced throughout this book of this is where the teens go on Halloween night to get all screwed up and drunk and party and yada yada. So kids there mostly don't know what's happening as a lot of this is taking place on the outskirts of town as it's moving inward. But 2 of the killers are there. And so they realize that they're both contestants because they're very clearly, they look like they don't belong, but it's so late at night and there's a bonfire going and people are drunk that they barely can pay attention. So those 2 start talking to each other and basically get to the point where the one guy says to her, it's like, let's just forget about this. You and I, let's just go and have some fun. And she's like, you got me obviously picked for the wrong person. I don't want to do any of that stuff. And, he gets all offended and pissed off. And she just keeps kind of like saying like, oh, you're just a weak little punk bitch. And like just goes on and on and on, getting under his skin. And then finally she says, you know what, screw it. And she is like, I think kind of a pyromaniac, explodes the van behind her. So she looks like she explodes and basically killed herself. And then the bonfire is like pretty close to that van. And the bonfire looks like that explodes as well. So that's the conclusion of the book, and that's the cliffhanger with all these kids around. So that's insane. The other thing that takes place is elsewhere in the town. We got this family, this mother, she was working in a car dealership, and then we have a paramedic. The paramedic was the niece of the sheriff that left a letter to like get out of town because the sheriff was paid off to basically leave and abandon this town and let these, this battle royale take place. So they're together in this car and they end up in this cemetery. And when they're in the cemetery, the van gets shot. And so then we pan over. It's the Lady Fox, who's like the main kind of character assassin who's won this battle royale before. And this like crazy mercenary assassin who's like the very first character we were introduced that was recruited. These 2 are like having a fight one-on-one in the middle of this graveyard while the van shows up, crashes. And these 2 are basically at a stalemate. One's got a gun pointed to like the throat and the other one's got the blade pointed to the neck. And so we don't really know who's going to win there. So those are like the major things that have happened. And then the very final piece is after that explosion took place, we then, cut over to the families like celebrating. And one of the head of the families looks over at the game master who sets this whole thing up. She's like, there is a reason that these game masters don't last very long, like insinuating that he screwed up. And then the fire was like going too early and, things are starting to get out of control when it's not supposed to get that out of control. Like the death and stuff is supposed to happen. But at the end of the day, it seems like there's supposed to be some semblance of rule when all this happens. So yeah, we'll see what the fallout is. I'm loving it. Super interesting book. Highly recommend. Is it the place to jump into? No. You should really start from the beginning so you can understand all the craziness that's happened throughout this. But, here's, all the partying in the pit and everything that's happened. Families and things starting to realize. Here's where that fighting takes place with Lady Fox and the mercenary. And then kind of back to the pit. Here's where these 2 are basically arguing back and forth. One of the guys saw like the gamekeepers or the groundskeepers starting to burn stuff off, so he wants to help as much as he can. We're back to the graveyard with the fighting and basically the stalemate that you have right there. So that's a pretty cool scene there. And then at the end where she lights herself basically on fire and then boom, the whole thing goes up in flames. The game masters and, all the families are looking on. So we'll see what's going to happen next. So yeah, Exquisite Corpses, issue number 7. Awesome book. Highly recommend it. James Tynion joint, along with, who else is on this? Yeah, it is. Michael Walsh is the other writer and artist as well. So yeah. Next up here is going to be the Ultimates, issue number 18. This one is another one where I was like, man, it's between a 4.5 and a 4. I decided to go with a 4 just because the issue itself was pretty predictable as I was reading through it. So I gave it a 4, Lee gave it a 4.4. This is the rally cry. This is the Avengers Assemble. This is we're getting the band together. This is the coming out party. This is the lead-in to the Ultimates Endgame. So we have Iron Lad. He's gathered this whole group and underground syndicate of superheroes. Remember, in the Ultimate Universe, there are no superpowers whatsoever. We have the Maker, who's the big bad villain, who's been locked away for 2 years, thanks to his father, Howard Stark. And since then, Tony, who's Iron Lad, not Iron Man, has given out all these boxes that contain the superhero powers for different people. And he's given them out to the folks that are supposed to have them, some variances and some differences here and there. And they're trying to put together, the Avengers, but they're called the Ultimates, and beat out this world and stop the Maker that's put in all these different leaders throughout these different countries and things like that. And so we finally got to the point where the network is built. They have this underground going. They've overturned a lot of the prisons, and they're coming out publicly saying, there's all these whispers of a rebellion and things like that. But they're on every screen. It's automatically translated to whatever region. They have this app that's out there that's gone viral. It's like a TikTok level of virality. And Iron Lad is giving the whole speech. Here we are. We know things are wrong. We know things are all messed up. We know we're oppressed. We got to rise up. The whole rally cry. That's the whole book. Is the entire thing is basically the speech. Here's the why. Here's all that we've done. Here are the things we have in place. Here's how you can help. Rebel now. Stop going to work. It doesn't have to be necessarily violent. Do whatever you can to push back against the system. And so that's basically it. It's the whole rally cry and Avengers Assemble type of moment. And it's going to lead in perfectly into Endgame. So if you're like, okay, well, this is the very end. Is this a good one to jump into? Ordinarily, I would say no. But I actually think this is a really good recap of what has happened over the past 18 issues. And you have kind of the highlights and the key points, and you're ready to just go into Endgame from here. Crazy that this has been a 2-year journey, which is kind of nuts when you think about it. I mean, these books come out like once every month or so. So, you start off with some of the entry books, then you finally get to the Ultimates, and this is 18, one a month, 24 months in 2 years. It's been quite the freaking journey. So it's pretty cool that we are finally getting to the end game. This would be my first multi-year event that I'll be seeing to the end. I imagine in 26 it's all going to come to an end. So I'm excited to jump into it. The Ultimate Universe has been awesome. It's the best stuff that's happening on the Marvel side of things. Absolute Universe is the best stuff happening on the DC side of things. I've mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. If there's only one or two different books that you can jump into, like this is the one in Marvel, and then DC, pick Superman, pick Wonder Woman, Batman, of course, for the absolute side. And, those are the ones that you would want to be in as well. So it's fun stuff. I'm enjoying it. I like the different takes and the different tweaks that we have on the heroes, and I'm just excited to get to Endgame. So that is the Ultimates issue number 18. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.4. Oh, I guess one final thing. Yeah, the reason I aired more towards a 4, because as you were reading through it, it's like, is this whole book going to be just the rally cry? And it ends up just being that. There wasn't a big surprise in here that pushed it over the edge for me personally. Obviously, Lee felt a little differently. 4.4 is a really good score. So, but that's the Ultimates issue number 18. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.4. Alrighty, from one kind of conclusion, if you will, to the next, we're going to go with One World Under Doom, issue number 9. So this is the conclusion to this book. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. I could see going lower on this, but in the end, I think a 4 was well-deserved. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I forgot to go through some of the artwork here for the Ultimates. So let's actually go on back to that and do that real quick. So for the Ultimates here, the artwork is good, but this is all about the dialogue itself. So it's serviceable. I think you have some good action. America Chavez, she has a couple of good action scenes here. You got the prisons and everything. They're all rally crying. You got Thor and Surf doing their thing as well. But most of it is really about a lot of the dialogue. That's really what's advancing the story here. This is a nice little look at Iron Man number 1 that's going to be coming out in January. So I'm excited for that. So yeah, should be good stuff going into Endgame. So that is actually the conclusion of the Ultimates. Boom. One World Under Doom. So again, I gave this a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. And I'd say it was just a little predictable in that we're going to have to hand wave this some way, somehow. And how they did it was fine. How else are you really going to do it? But we got to get the big gods involved. So Doom has conquered everything. He finally defeated everyone, from the Fantastic Four to the Avengers to the X-Men. Everyone, all defeated. He's in charge. But the one thing that happened is his goddaughter, Valeria, she teleports into the fight because she's trying to get to Doom, but Doom keeps ignoring her. And she knows, I'm the only one that can get to him. I'm the only one that can get him to see reason. So she finally teleports to exactly where he is at the same moment instantly, where he like releases this huge blast, and the magic and the power is so strong it cannot be reversed. She gets hit with it, cuts off her leg, and she's like all it's as though it was like shards of glass that are in her, and so she dies. And Doom's like, this is unacceptable. Doom cannot accept this. And when Doom talks in the third person like that, it's just always so epic. And so he pleads with the gods. Some of the gods won't listen. So he goes to the highest possible god that you can, which is the Living Tribunal. And so goes to the Living Tribunal and wants to offer up something for Valeria's life. Explains this whole thing. At first, the Living Tribunal is like, no, you have nothing to trade that's actually worth this. And they keep arguing back and forth and back and forth. And after the Living Tribunal hears the whole plea, decides like, okay, there is something that you can trade. So Valeria is good. The whole world is reversed. The Living Tribunal did it all. Everything is gone and reverted back to what it was before Doom. Including, I love how they added this as well. They hand waved all the vampirism from the Blood Hunt, so that all that stuff is gone as well. So now you don't have to deal with any of the vampires that are running out too. Apparently there was some cure, so that's done. But what Doom had to trade, and he's talking with Reed, Mr. Fantastic, is he had to trade his own soul. So he's gone, and he had to abdicate and loses the title of Sorcerer Supreme, which allowed him to have all this power in the first place. So Doom's going to be gone. He pleads with Reed of like, try to help him. And Reed's like, not really hearing it. Like, no, I'm not going to help you. After all this, like, you do all this back and forth constantly, it never ends well. So whatever you think you have going on, that you think that you can like correct this and fix it the next time, not even going to hear it out. Doom fades away, and he's gone. He perishes, if you will. The end, though, is Scarlet Witch shows up, coming from whatever dimension that she is, and she looks like all corrupted and a little evil, and now she's the Sorceress Supreme moving forward, and she seems like she's going to be a problem and a big bad in 2026, so we'll see how all that goes. So yeah, I thought it was a cool little story. Valeria's here, Doom is now gone, so he's going to go to the wayside for a little bit, and now it's going to be, we're going after the Scarlet Witch is going to be a big bad in the Marvel Universe. At least that's my prediction anyways. So let's go through the artwork here. Artwork was excellent. Really, really good stuff here. So like, look, this is Doom here. Like, can't believe everything that he's done. Now that Valeria is dead, it's mostly just Doom. He's got to figure out what all to do here. And so he's pleading with different gods here. And then he finally gets to the point where he deals with the Living Tribunal, which I love the idea of this character because, where is the Living Tribunal? He's somewhere in here. Here he is. So you can see his face on the left-hand side. It's just like this three-face side thing, and it's just like pure just justice and judgment. And playing Marvel Snap, I was so interested, and I was like, I want a story about this god. And this is like the closest thing that we have right now. I'm hoping like something is out there. I probably got to read the Gods Marvel book. I'm sure he's featured more in that one. But it's just like so interesting. He feels like the highest level that you can possibly get into Marvel. So yeah, Doom totally completely gone, and Reed is like, oh my god, yeah, he was serious. Like, he's gone. And indeed he is. So yeah, cool book. Great conclusion. I enjoyed the series a lot. I think it's worth it. For me, the books were mostly hit. League would say that some books are hit and miss. So buyer be warned on that. But for me personally, it's a recommend. All 9 books. Not the place to jump in, obviously. But also with all that being said too, I'll say that this is also the cover of the week. Pretty dope. You got Doom, knees down in the sand. Everyone else is like defeated, and you just see like their skulls from like Ant-Man to Captain America to, it almost looks like it's Thanos' skull that's on the ground here. The Scarlet Witch. MODOK. Of course, you got Cap's shield, Iron Man's down, and it's just Doom just like, what have I done? It's awesome. So yeah, that's One World Under Doom, issue number 9. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. Then from here, we get to the New Gods, which is a running for cover of the week, but I definitely decided to give it to Doom. I think that was pretty dope. So the New Gods, I haven't been super feeling it. This is definitely the wrong score to give. I don't know why it was a 5. It was definitely not a 5 for me. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.6. For me, for the New Gods, like Rom V, like things are just too kind of like sing-songy, and then on top of that, it's like too philosophical for me. I just don't quite understand what we're all saying here, and I just have to interpret it based on the artwork. But I'd like to, the words to kind of match what the art is showing as well. So we're at the point now where there are gods that want this weapon, and then there are the quote-unquote new gods from New Genesis. They ended up on Earth. They're trying to get this weapon to stop the oppressors that destroyed their home of New Genesis. So the oppressors are coming. This little child baby is a weapon that was forged at the beginning of time, basically, and the weapon, the child, is falling into this black hole. So Orion goes after the child in the black hole, not quite able to get to it, and Orion is like helpless. So Mr. Miracle shows up, and Mr. Miracle has basically been the watcher of this child, and he was the one that prevented Orion from hunting down the child and the weapon at the beginning of the book. So he reaches into the black hole. He's able to get to the child, rescues the child, and brings the child out. So then we get to the part of the book where they explain to the child, here's actually what's going on, here's who you are, here's what you need to do. And they don't force the child to do anything, but like, you're this cosmic weapon. You can choose to use your power against this oppressor, but the choice is truly up to you. Child transforms into this enormous man, but it's like this huge planetary-sized thing, and does decide to help. Fights off the oppressors. The New Gods are now safe. And then in all the chaos at the very end, Orion decides to abdicate the title of High Father, so we don't really have a High Father for these New Gods moving forward. And that's the story. That's basically the gist of it, or at least what I understood of it. So, all's well. Oppressors are gone. New Genesis is still destroyed, and the gods, they don't have a High Father as of right now. That's basically it. And now we got this new character of this weapon, and we'll see how they kind of factor into everything moving forward on the DC side of things. I'd imagine something to do with Darkseid, and the crossover with the Absolute Universe at some point. So let's go ahead and show off the artwork. Artwork has been excellent, and it continues to be so here. You start off, basically, it's the trials of Miracle Man. I think I was saying Mr. Miracle. It's Miracle Man, I'm pretty sure. So here's the child in the black hole that Orion's not able to get to. And finally, here, he's able to, or he's like fighting off one of the minor gods, goes into the black hole and is able to get to him. So from there, that's where they have the whole conversation and explain everything of, yeah, it is, sorry, it's not Miracle Man. It is Mr. Miracle. I was correct. Explain everything to the child. Hey, here's who you are. Here's what we're up against. I was like, yep, let's go ahead, fight off these oppressors. Decides to, joins in the help, or in the hunt. And Orion here is where he abdicates. And that's basically the end. The conclusion. So yeah, the New Gods, wasn't super impressed. I can't recommend it. League, though, was way over the top. Loved it. Art is really good. It is Rom V. But I don't know. I wasn't jiving with it, to be perfectly honest with you. And I felt like at points I probably should have dropped this a while back, but I didn't. I just kind of stuck it out. So, yeah. That's the New Gods, issue number 12. Gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.6. And since that's the last one, I can't recommend jumping in at issue number 12 either. Then next up, we have Absolute Flash, issue number 9. So I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. I was actually surprised that League was this low on it. I thought they would have been much higher. This is a cool issue. We have Wally as the Flash, he's with this rogue group that was at first pursuing him, but they realize that, they're going to kind of be pushed to the wayside once they complete their mission, and that Dr. Thawne, who's in charge of this whole program, doesn't really care about them. On top of that, Wally's father, who's a colonel, this squad basically reported to the colonel, but the colonel is like really no longer in charge. It's Dr. Thawne who's running this whole thing. And they're trying to capture Wally, bring him back because it was an experiment that's gone wrong. And we find out at the very end of the issue that Wally is the key as the Flash to something. We just don't know what, but he is the key. And so Wally and this squad decide to team up together and they go after Dr. Thawne. As they head back, though, one of the squad members, Double Crosser, actually still secretly working for Thawne. So announces to Thawne that, hey, we're close by. They send a missile at this helicopter, explodes. The Double Crosser has like some sort of force field and grabs Flash as well, so they're protected. Remember, we got Monkey Grodd, not Gorilla Grodd, who's in there as well. Apparently, he has a force field. He protects everyone else, and they all basically kind of collapse to the ground, and they're safe, but the home base isn't fully aware. And at that point also is where Thawne basically reveals that Wally has something to do with being a key, but we don't know what for. So we need to learn more as to what is going to happen from there. So yeah, that is basically the issue in a nutshell. Let's go through some of the artwork here. I think Absolute Flash has been crushing it on the artwork, and it continues to do so here, especially on the heavy action issues like this one was. So here we are up in the helicopter. This is the Double Crosser here. And let's see. Oh, yeah, there's also this part, too, where Wally kind of starts to... I think his powers are getting, like, overwhelming, and he needs to, like, chill out, basically. And he has a moment with Grodd, who helps him to, like, kind of calm down. But that's where the missile goes off, hits the helicopter. These are the force fields. They go crashing down. Excellent artwork that you have kind of across the board there, and the crash landing into the forest and things like that. And then Thawne at the very end here reveals that, yeah, there is going to be a... Wally's like the key to one of these things. So, yeah, cool book. Enjoying it. All the absolutes are great. And, Flash is maybe the lower of them, but still an excellent book, in my opinion. Is it the time to jump in? No, it's really not. And I don't really know when would be a good one because it all kind of builds on top of itself. Maybe issue like 6 when he got to the town. Something like that. It's not a clean break as to here's the end of one arc and here's the beginning of a new one. It's all kind of together. So yeah, Absolute Flash. If you see it on the shelves and you're like, I'll just go ahead and try it. You're not going to get too lost. You'll be fine. But I can't fully recommend that that's the one to jump into either. So again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. Then we have Final Boss, issue number 1. So this was a really cool one. It is an independent book from Image. We have a dude who's down on his luck, and he's fighting to try to scrape by and get some money as best as he can. Seems to be like some sort of ex-military vet and just doing a whole bunch of odd jobs and things like that. Mostly fights on the side, but he can heal really quickly. And his grandfather fought in World War I, World War II, got marooned on some sort of island. From that island, started to explain to our protagonist that there's a whole bunch of like weird stuff that happened on the island, and he found this necklace. Gave that to his grandson, so he wears it, and he's been wearing it for so long that it like leaves this like scar on his chest, and we think that's the source of a lot of his power. And so he finished up a fight. He's taking on this other fight against the champ. It's like the 7-foot tall monster is the way that they describe it, but it's a lot of money that's going to be offered up. And he's trying to find his father. So not his grandfather, but his father, I guess, is missing. And this will be enough money for him to be able to do that. So he decides to take on the fight, even though he's like barely healed up, but he's like kind of enough. So A, he's the underdog. B's not like 100% healed up. So now he's going to have to fight this guy. Starts fighting, and of course, he's getting rocked in the first couple of rounds. And then the best way to describe it is like he basically just locks in and he goes Super Saiyan. And it has to do with whatever this necklace is that he's wearing. And so he's able to then fight off this champ, and he beats him, defeats him. And it is ultra gory and bloody and like rips the guy in half is literally what happens. So it curses a lot. It's very over the top. It's very violent. It's rated M for sure. So keep that in mind. But it's sold really well. The manager at the shop was like, yeah, I had to reorder a whole bunch of these. Like, people really wanted to read this book. So it's a cool one, and it's the number one. Definitely the one to jump into. You're totally fine. And it looks like, and you get to the end, it's called Final Boss. That was the first boss that was crossed off, and like this is going to be a whole tree and path. I think it's 8 or 10 different bosses that will be fighting in each one of these books. So it's, you know, a bit of like Street Fighter, if you will, come to life. In a comic format, and it's a little more gruesome than, you know, what Street Fighter presents itself in the video game format. So yeah, that's Final Boss issue number 1. Going through the artwork here, really good, great detail, high saturation as well. So excellent stuff there. And then yeah, a lot of cursing. Here's him doing like an odd job where he's like trying to basically scare a husband who's been cheating on his wife. So we got the 2 fighters here. On the left is our protagonist, and then on the right is like the first boss. Gives like the whole stats and everything, and then the fighting between these two is really good, like kind of insane. What you have here, and I just want to show the point where he goes like Super Saiyan. Starts fighting back, and here, this is where he basically like goes nuts, and from this point on, he just absolutely destroys the other guy in the end, and boom, like splits him in half here. That's probably going to be the cover for the next issue. And at the end here is the Tree of Power. So we got the first boss that's defeated, and then I think it's like 10 or so that you have listed out here. So it looks pretty cool. I'm interested in this, so I'll definitely keep it going. I do recommend it. Obviously, it's number 1. You're good to go there. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
It's a good book. Check it out. That's Final Boss issue number 1. Then we get to Red Book. So Red Book was a cool one. Mostly as a continuation from Blue Book, which has basically a lot to do with UFOs and alien sightings, and it's retelling some stories that happened in the United States. The Red Book is stuff that happened in Russia and in China. So this one mostly focuses on China. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. James Tynion helped write this one, and I think it's actual stories that people have shared, and it's what's out there, and they just try to put it into a comic book format. So one story in particular about a flying saucer that landed way up north in China, kind of closer to like the Russian side of things, and they went to kind of like interact with it, and one of the people there like fainted, and they brought him back, and he was sick for quite a while, like weeks and weeks and weeks. Well, when he finally comes to and he gets better, he basically explains that he had all these crazy hallucinations of like being probed basically, but he wasn't. His body was basically there with everyone else, and then he got like extraordinarily sick and then died. So it's like these crazy, saw this first contact thing, guy comes back having all these crazy experiences and hallucinations. So it's stories like that. And then it also says, you know, obviously it's communism there, so like it's not very easy for these stories to come out. People are afraid of what's going to happen to them and their families, and to be labeled X, Y, and Z. And so you don't have as many stories in Russia and in China as you do in the United States, but all this craziness has been happening out there as well. It explains these different societies that they set up, and now people are starting to come forward maybe a little bit more than they did previously, but you have this huge gap in history of like all these different things that I'm sure there was stuff happening, but it's either kept under wraps or people are too afraid to kind of voice their opinion. So it talks about that a little bit. And then a little bit about some stuff that happened like even earlier in like some of the dynasty eras as well. So it's cool. It's cool to learn about UFOs, especially in this time. Joe Rogan just did a podcast one of my friends recommended. I checked that out about UFOs. Crazy stories that you have in there. And so to read this after listening to that, I was like, oh my gosh, man, there is just, who knows what's out there, right? Who knows? So yeah, I enjoyed it. Show off some of the artwork. It's all about the storytelling on this. The art is very simplistic for the most part, but the storytelling is like trying to get these accounts. Tynion does a really good job of Just weaving the narrative and making it interesting so it's not just regurgitating facts while still getting the facts as well. And it still gives you like kind of, it sends a shiver up your spine every now and then as you're reading through the stuff of like, oh my gosh, that actually happened. So things like that, it's pretty cool. So yeah, Red Book, I'll definitely continue to read it. You're totally fine to jump into this one. Each one is just kind of like facts. It's not a layering of different stories. So 3, you can jump into that one. You can jump into 1. You can jump into any of the blue books. It's fine. It's just like kind of these one-off stories, and they do great jobs of recapping it. So they're almost like one-off issues, even though it is a continuation, but it's not a singular character moving forward. So yeah, that's Red Book issue number 2. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. And then we get to G.I. Joe number 14. So this is going to be the last book from the polls from last week. I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.5 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And with that being said, I'll also say it is the comic of the week. Awesome story that you had here. So we have Cobra Commander and Duke teaming up together. They were caught out in the desert. Both are trying to get to this Energon signal out in the desert. Cobra Commander was betrayed by really Destro, but it was one of the other kind of like redneck crew that they brought up, took this as their chance to try to get after them. So they set up this Energon that was out there, and in actuality, it was just a setup so all the rednecks could show up and then try to kill Cobra Commander. Duke happened to be there as well because he's trying to get the Energon signal as well, and there's a bunch of movement of Cobra. Duke didn't allow them to kill Cobra Commander, and they get into this Jeep and they start driving off. So a lot of this is an action-based one. They start to trust each other, and they work really well together, and they are able to get away from all the rednecks. So that's a big piece of the book. The other thing is Destro is taking advantage. It's like, all right, well, Cobra Commander's away. I'm going to be in charge of Cobra. Going to work with all these different governments, start selling weapons and ammunitions, and start to build up the empire even further. And he's taking things in a different direction. And then the final piece is we get to a abandoned village, and they're basically trying to get a bit of respite before they take like the next leg of the journey. But it's not completely abandoned. There's all these pigs there. Cobra Commander walks into this abandoned room, or so he thinks, and then someone's there, completely knocks him out. Turns out to be Road Pig, I think is his name, and he's facing off against Duke, and we just see Cobra Commander's helmet on the ground, and we presume that Cobra Commander is knocked out. So, great book, great cliffhanger, awesome action, such a zany combo where you have the two leaders of the rival factions working together. This is Optimus and Megatron working together, you know what I mean? So, it's pretty wild to see that. So, it's cool. It's really, really well done. Great time to jump in. 13 would actually be the place you want to jump in, but you'd be totally fine if you jumped into issue number 14 as well. So here's a lot of the action scenes that you have going on here and the fighting that's taking place in the desert. So a lot of that is really great, high quality. It's the desert, so you're going to have more of like the tans and the browns and oranges and reds and things like that. So that worked out really good. Here they are where, boom, Cobra Commander is smashed in the head with this mallet, and it turns out to be the reveal of Road Pig at the end here. So, yeah, G.I. Joe, issue number 14. Highly recommend. G.I. Joe's been crushing it. Really anything in the Energon universe, which is G.I. Joe, Transformers, Void Rivals, all of the books have been really high-quality stuff. So, enjoying that a lot. And this is the calling it the Dreadnought Wars part 2 of 5. So yeah, 13 is technically the place you want to start, but you would be totally fine if you jumped into issue number 14. So that's G.I. Joe. Number 14, I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.5 as well. And then we will conclude here with Batman and Robin, issue number 14 as well. I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. We got a new arc that's taking place, so if you see 14 on the shelf, that you're totally fine to go ahead and jump into that one. It's kind of a step back. So we're done with Dinosaur Island. We're going to a gala, and we're going to be Bruce Wayne and Damian. And so getting all dressed up in the tux, there's this big old gala charity event. Bruce shows up, but there's like kind of an ulterior motive because this is built on some sort of factory, and I guess there's been like a lot of activity that's been happening in the basement as well. But Bruce wants Damian to get more adjusted to just being a person. Not everything is about being on patrol all the time. And Damian's like hating this and like hates being at the kids' table and dealing with all this stuff. But Bruce notices some commotion, so he breaks away and he asks Robin, like, stay and manage everything that's happening topside in case something happens. So Bruce goes down, and then sure enough, there are like all these thugs or whatever that are down there, and he's not quite sure what's going on. And he doesn't have his bat suit either. So he uses basically the cover of the night to take all these guys out as he's trying to figure out what exactly is happening. And then at the end, it's revealed that we have this villain who's come back to life, and his name is Memento Mori, is who we're dealing with now. And so it's just the reveal. Batman doesn't look like he's going to be down and out, but like the reveal that it's Memento Mori is the cliffhanger. Never read a book or have heard of this character before, so not sure what it's all going to be about. We'll see as it unfolds. But nice to get a different take of like them trying to be humans, but obviously it's going to end up being some Batman and Robin shenanigans that end up taking place. So with that, let's go ahead and show off some of the artwork. Again, a lot of this is, them being at the gala. So they stop patrol very early on, and then after that, they get ready for this gala. And Damian's like, I don't want to do this. Here's the kind of the speech and the award ceremonies, and Damian's like sitting there all pissed off. Bruce hears all this commotion, so he heads downstairs. Here's where they got this guy hostage, and Robin's still up top, guarding everything off, and Bruce is doing his thing down in the basement, beating everyone up as he typically does. And then here is when Memento Mori shows up and the reveal there, and so there's this big explosion that happens here, and we'll see what takes place next. Probably try to save all the people, evacuate the place, and do all the hero stuff. So yeah, Batman and Robin issue number 14. Fine place to jump in if you see it on your shelves. But this book came out quite a while ago, a little over a year, October 9th, 2024. So yeah, that is it, folks. That is a show. Let me go ahead, pull up all the books for the video, folks, so you can see. I'll just rattle everything off again. Just so you know, we had Batman, Deadpool. This is the DC version of the book. Morrison's take on breaking the fourth wall a lot. That'll be the end of that. Exquisite Corpses, issue number 7. We got the Mercenary and Lady Fox fighting, and then also the Pit is compromised as well. The Ultimates, number 18, the Rally Cry. From Iron Lad to the World as we start Endgame. One World Under Doom, issue number 9. Doom is now gone and no longer Sorcerer Supreme. New Gods, issue number 12. It looks like Mr. Miracle saved the day along with the weapon and the conclusion to that storyline. Absolute Flash. We got Wally teaming up with the Squad, but there is a double crosser among them. Final Boss, issue number 1. We got a dude down on his luck fighting his way to try to find his father. Red Book, issue number 2. Just stories coming out of China and Russia about UFOs and aliens. G.I. Joe, number 14. The continuation of Duke and Cobra Commander as they team up together to try to get away from the rednecks. And then Batman and Robin, issue number 14. Try to just go to a gala as normal, Bruce and Damian. But shenanigans ensue, and we're running into Memento Mori. So, those are the books. Those were the 10. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. If you'd like, you can follow the show and all the social media channels in the description below. Feel free to like, subscribe, share. Let me know how to improve the show, things you like, things that I need to do better to make the show better. Always open to advice. And then, of course, it's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as well. And then if you'd like to leave a tip, set up a buymeacoffee.com/SaturdayMorningReview. So feel free to leave whatever you'd feel for some appreciation for everything that I do here. All this money would just go towards, honestly, comics and professional wrestling. So yeah, with that, I think we'll go ahead and close it out. Thanks so very much for tuning in. This will be the last one before Thanksgiving. So if you're in the States, happy Thanksgiving. If you celebrate that, please enjoy, and we'll be back on Saturday. So I will see you guys in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.